Good day everyone. I will discuss the topic of software testing, the contents of the report. First, I will discuss about the fundamentals of test process, test planning and control, test analysis and design, test implementation and execution, evaluating exit criteria and reporting, test closure activities, and the last one is about test planning. Test plan identifiers, benefits of test plan, and steps to create a good test plan. Test process. What is software test? Testing is the process of evaluating a system or its components with the intent to find whether it satisfies the specified requirement or not. Testing is executing a system in order to identify any gap, errors, or missing requirements in contrary to the actual requirements. Testing is a process rather than a single activity. Testing must be planned and it requires discipline to act upon it. The quality and effectiveness of software testing are primarily determined by the quality of the test process used. What are the fundamentals of test process? First, we have test planning and control. Test planning is an activity of defining the objectives of testing and the specification of test activities in order to meet the objectives and mission. During test planning, we make sure that we understand goals of customer, stakeholders, and project. Test planning involves producing a document that describes an overall approach and test objectives. It involves reviewing the test basis, identifying the test conditions based on analysis of test items, writing test cases, and designing the test environment. Test control is the ongoing activity of comparing actual progress against the plan. We need to control and measure progress against the plan. Testers need to compare actual progress against the expected progress and share the report with customer, project manager, and the other stakeholders. Test planning major tasks. Deciding the scope and risk of testing. Determine the test approach. Implement the test policy and or test strategy. Determine the required test resources. Schedule test analysis and design tasks. Test implementation, execution, and evaluation. And determine the exit criteria. Test control major tasks. Measure and analyze the result of reviews and testing. Monitor and document progress, test coverage, and exit criteria. Provide information on testing. Initiate corrective actions and make decisions. Second, we have test analysis and design. Test analysis is a process of analyzing the test basis, all documents from which the requirements of a component or system can be inferred, and defining test objectives. It covers what is to be tested in the form of test conditions and can start as soon as the basis for testing is established for each test level. Test design is an item or event of a component or system that could be verified by one or more test cases. Example, function, transaction, future, etc. Covers how something is to be tested by identifying test cases with stepwise elaboration for the test conditions from test analysis or from the test basis using techniques identified in the test strategy or plan. Test analysis major task. It can be performed in parallel, integrated, or iterative with test design. Test analysis evaluates and reviews the test objectives and product risk, while it defines detailed measures and targets for success, deciding on the level of detail should consider the level of maturity of the test process and the skills and knowledge of the test analyst, system or software complexity and development life cycle use, the level of testing, level of detail and quality of the test base, relationship between test basis, what is to be tested and how is to be tested. Test management tool use, availability of stakeholders for consultation, and project and product risk. Third, we have test implementation and execution. Test implementation and execution is the activity where test procedures or scripts are specified by combining the test cases in a particular order and including any other information needed for test execution. The environment is set up and the tests are run. Test execution involves actually running the specified test on a computer system, either manually or by using an automated test tool. It is a fundamental test process in which actual work is done. Test implementation and execution major tasks. Finalizing, implementing, and prioritizing test cases. Developing and prioritizing test procedures. Executing test procedures. Verifying that the test environment has been set up correctly. reporting discrepancies as incidents, and analyzing them in order to establish their cause, creating test suites from the test procedures for efficient test execution, logging the outcome of test execution, and recording the identities and versions of the software under test, test tools, and testware, repeating test activities as a result of action taken for each discrepancy, comparing actual result with expected results. Fourth, we have evaluating exit criteria and reporting. Exit criteria is set of agreed conditions with stakeholders based on which you can officially mark the testing process to be completed for a particular test level. Exit criteria should be set for each test level. Evaluating exit criteria is a process defining when to stop testing. It depends on coverage of code, functionality, or risk. Basically, it also depends on business risk, cost, and time, and vary from project to project. Exit criteria come into picture when maximum test cases are executed with certain pass percentage, bug rate falls below certain level, and when we achieve the deadlines. Evaluating exit criteria has the following major tasks. First, to assess if more tests are needed or if the exit criteria specified should be changed, and to write a test summary report for stakeholders. And lastly, we have test closure activities. Test closure activities are done when software is ready to be delivered. The testing can be closed for the other reasons also, like when a project is cancelled, when some target is achieved, and when a maintenance release or update is done. Types of test closure activities: validate test completion, handling over test artifacts and testware, define lesson learned, and archiving test work.